Hello everyone, this is Marlene, and for my second course share, I'm going to review fanfiction.net. You do not need to subscribe or create a new account. You can simply log in using any of these authorized networks. So I'm going to use my Google account to log in. Okay, and so here I'm at my the profile settings page. The site already generated a profile URL for me, and I'll just go through this part really quickly. As you can see, I have my username, which is my email, but you can change it. You can also select an avatar. I tried selecting one, but I cannot. There is a waiting period, and the reason for this waiting period is to reduce the potential for abuse, which I was unclear about. I'm not sure how waiting reduces the potential for abuse, or what they mean really, but there is a 24-hour waiting period, so I won't be able to use an avatar until tomorrow at 1:25 Pacific Standard Time. Sadly, can't. But let's move on now, and I'm basically just going to review the rules and guidelines first. These are the rules and guidelines that fanfiction writers have to follow. And afterwards, I'm also going to talk about the qualifications for better readers and perhaps check out a profile from one of these registered better readers. And then if time allows, I'll browse around and check out perhaps a forum or a story. As you can see, there's quite a lot of content here, and unfortunately I won't be able to review all of it in this 15-minute allotted time slot, but I'll try to go over as much as possible. So first thing I want to review is the community etiquette. So this is the list of behaviors that are expected from fanfiction writers, and most of these are asking fanfiction writers to hold themselves accountable when it comes to the pieces that they submit. And the first one is asking fanfiction writers to spell check their stories and poetry. And it also advises them to download a word processor or some kind of spell checker from Google search engine if they don't have one. The second rule is asking fanfiction writers to proofread all of their entries for grammar and other aspects of writing before they submit. So again, this is asking writers to hold themselves accountable for any writing that they submit for review. It is also conceding that no writer is perfect, no piece of writing is perfect, but that it is nonetheless the writer's responsibility to try to perform to the best of their abilities. And so basically it's asking them to make the best attempt possible to minimize any grammatical errors. Then the third one is to respect the reviewer. So I really like this one. It's basically encouraging writers to adopt more of a growth mindset when it comes to the feedback they received. It's asking them to take it as a compliment when a reviewer has spent their time giving them feedback to help them improve their writing. Then the fourth rule is to respect fellow members, and this one I think is encouraging writers to be active and not only submit their own work, but to also engage with the work of other aspiring writers in this venue. And lastly, it asks fiction writers to use proper textual formatting, for example, using only capital letters in the story title, summary, or content is not only incorrect, but also a disregard for the language itself. So this is a good rule to make fiction writers mindful of following proper genre conventions. And I'm just going to scroll through this part really quickly. Here is just a description of the entries, actions, and general rules that fan fiction writers have to abide to. And this next part here is pretty interesting. So every fiction writer has to rate their piece, and the ratings are derived from fictionratings.com. And the ratings range from fiction K, which signifies content that is suitable for most ages, to fiction K plus, and fiction T, which is suitable for audiences who are 9 years and older. And the content in this type of writing might include minor violence without serious injury, and it also may contain mild coarse language, but it should not contain any adult themes. That's pretty broad. Then we have fiction M and fiction MA. Interestingly enough, this one's just here for reference, but none of the entries that are submitted to fan fiction are allowed to be rated as MA. They don't allow fiction MA rating whatsoever. I guess that suggests that their specific audience or users are probably below the age of 16. I just thought it was interesting that they prohibit any graphic content from making it onto fanfiction.net, and I'm curious to know whether that is because they are targeting a specific audience. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and talk about beta readers. So we have come across this concept before in the literature on fan fiction. And oops, sorry about that. Here it is. So here's a description of a beta reader. And a beta reader is a person who reads a work of fiction with a critical eye with the aim of improving grammar, spelling, characterization, and general style of a story prior to its release to the general public. Here are the qualifications to become a beta reader. So first, you have to be registered as a member for at least a month or more. You must have at least 5 stories published on the site or have published entries totaling at least 6,000 words. And you must accurately complete both the profile and preferences part of this beta section. My apologies. So here is the beta profile section. All right, so here's just a repetition of the qualifications, and it asks you to pick a status. So if you are accepting beta requests, you're active. If you are too busy and are unable to review the works of others, then you have to your status should read that you are on hiatus or on vacation mode. And if you are just not active at all, you would opt for the third option and provide a message explaining why you are on hiatus. Okay, then here you would provide a brief description of yourself, a brief biography. You would discuss your strengths here, your weaknesses, the types of stories that you prefer to read over others, and then the ones that are just not your cup of tea. So if there are specific genres or categories that you do not want to review, you would make a note of it here. Let's move on to better preferences. So here, the first thing it asks is for you to select the rating range that you are willing to read. Again, this is, I already reviewed this a little earlier. So there's fiction K through M, fiction K through T, etc. Then you would select the category preference. So if you like to read anime, books, cartoons, you would select all of those. Then you would save, of course, then your genre preference, and the languages that you're willing to provide feedback on. So here you would specify which languages you are proficient in and that you are able to offer your services. You can select up to 3 languages. Okay, now I'm going to move on to an actual beta reader's profile. So let's take a look at Sora Girl. Close. Okay, so this is Sora Girl, and here is her profile. She has written 47 stories. That's impressive, and these are the cartoons and anime and books she has written on. It doesn't specify if she has created sequels or inserted herself as a character or written in a character's perspective. It would be really interesting. I would love for this page to provide more more details about the kind of writing that she's done. Okay, so then here's a general description of Sora Girl. Her strengths, her weaknesses are listed, and then the preferences, the types of books or stories that she is interested in reading, the ones that she would not like to read, which I guess she doesn't really have any. It seems like she is willing to read any category or genre, and then this is her language preference, English, and the content rating that she's willing to review. All right, and I guess there's a little bit of time to maybe look at one of the stories. So I am going to check out the Sailor Moon stories. Sailor Moon was one of my favorite childhood cartoons. So here's a list of stories you can check out. All right, so let's choose one. Okay, and so these are the stories, and you can check out the reviews before opening the story, and I guess it can be really helpful to see what others are saying and decide whether or not you want to check out the story for yourself. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and conclude this course share presentation, and just because time is almost up, but in terms of the usefulness of the site, I think it is really useful. I think it is a great environment where developing writers can take risks, and it encourages risk-taking, but at the same time, it also encourages writers to be mindful of their ethos and to be mindful of their audience. It is especially a good site for writers who are into creative writing, and also those who just enjoy reading a wide variety of genres. Okay, thank you. That is all, and I look forward to your comments.